In our national lead, Arkansas's governor just announced that he will call in the National Guard to help distribute 1.5 million rapid at-home tests that the state is purchasing. Today, the state of Arkansas saw a single-day record for COVID cases, but of course, the key indicator is hospitalizations, and that number thankfully remains stable. This comes after Governor Asa Hutchinson expressed frustration to President Biden about some supply chain delays for testing. The governor says he's been, quote, creative with locating a supplier. And joining us to discuss, the Arkansas governor, Asa Hutchinson. Governor, thanks so much for being with us. When President Biden says, tell us what you need, what are you telling him? What are you telling Jeff Zients, the COVID coordinator? What are you telling the federal government?
Well, last week I told the White House task force that we needed additional monoclonal antibody treatments. We're out of those, or we're in short supply of those, and the federal government controls the allocation of those to the states. We made that request. We did get some. They're already used. We need more, and so that's the greatest need that we have. In terms of the at-home testing, testing is a great need that we have across the nation, and we could see the challenge ahead with the federal government ordering 500 million. Where's the supply chain going to be for the states? And thank goodness we've got an industry that steps up quickly. FDA's approved multiple suppliers, and so we were able to acquire 1.5 million for Arkansas. We'll wait on that delivery, but we expect that, and that's going to make a real difference because that's what we need. That's going to relieve our hospital workers and their testing time. It's going to allow the home test quicker reaction time by parents, by workers, so they can isolate themselves and be safer because of that home test. We want to make that available at free cost, no cost.
I have to say, just as somebody that's been covering this now for 2 years, I am amazed that we're at the end of 2021 and there is still such a shortage of testing. This is a failure by the Trump administration and the Biden administration. As somebody who pursues your own tests as much as you can get them for Arkansans, as somebody who works with the federal government, both Trump and Biden, what's the problem? Like, why are there not enough tests?
Well, there are plenty of PCR tests, and so you can go anywhere and get a test. It's just not rapid. And so that the shortage is in one particular area of test.
Right, that kind.
Should have that been ramped? Pardon?
That's the kind I'm talking about. Where's the shortage?
The home test.
Yeah.
Well, there is the shortage there. Why is there a shortage there? We had to wait for the FDA approval process. They had to step up the manufacturing. Could have the Defense Production Act been utilized more quickly? I don't know the answer to that question. I'm dealing in the reality of what we face at this particular moment, trying to look ahead to the future. I'm looking ahead to hospital space, taking the steps that we might need in the event we run short on that. But right now, we're addressing the need of testing. I know they're working on it from a federal perspective, but I don't know that 500 million at the federal level is as good a solution as the states having sufficient to get them out and to get them where they're needed more quickly.
A judge in Arkansas struck down your state's ban on mask mandates in schools. This is an issue where you changed your position on whether school districts should be allowed to impose mask mandates if they want to. Why do you now think that schools should be able to if they want to?
That's an example of where you just don't know the future when it comes to the pandemic. At the time I signed that law that banned mask mandates across the state by any governmental entity, our cases were low. We thought we were through it. Obviously, that was an error. And so whenever our cases spiked up, I called the legislature back into session to change that law. They didn't. And ultimately, we won in court in the sense that it was ruled unconstitutional. And so now the school districts, which was most important for me, have the local flexibility, which is, to me, is a conservative principle, that they can take action that they deem appropriate for the health of their students. And so now with the Omicron spiking up severely in Arkansas, I know the school boards across the state will be looking at their own data, their positivity rate, their case rate, their vaccination rate, and making a decision for the well-being of their students, and that's the decision they ought to have a right to make. and the judge affirmed that.
I know as a conservative you're reluctant to impose mandates. You want people to do things willingly when it comes to mask wearing, when it comes to vaccinations, when it comes to boosters, and on and on. But there's also a lot of misinformation out there undermining your ability to convince people to get vaccines, to wear masks, people undermining basic science. Does that make your job more difficult and the goal of saving the lives of Arkansans tougher?
Sure it does. And you actually have to recognize that a mandate is going to force more vaccinations, but the cost of that is significant. And the Biden administration actually recognized we can't do without teachers and healthcare workers, and so they modified the isolation and quarantine rules to get them back to work quicker. And that's really part of the recognition in Arkansas that we need these essential workers. We need teachers. We need the bus drivers. And we were going to lose so many of those if that mandate was in place. You've got to overlay scientific information with practical, real data as to how people live and how they respond to that. So in Arkansas, one, the federal government shouldn't be doing mandates because historically they never have in terms of the state and businesses. The states have to make the decisions. In Arkansas, the time is not right, and we continue to educate, and we're having success in that. The best educator, though, is Omicron. As the risk increases, vaccination rates will increase as well.
You thanked President Biden when he talked to the nation's governors on Monday. Let's roll a little clip of that.
Thank you for your comments designed to depoliticize our COVID response. I think that was helpful.
Obviously, you and President Biden disagree on any number of issues, including, as you just noted, vaccine mandates. Were you surprised that basic civility and decency made headlines, and did you get any heat from your fellow Republicans?
Well, other than being called a softy, I was surprised that it got any coverage, because to me that is the civil approach to politics. And as I introduce him, I'm always thinking of, well, what do we have in common? What have we are in agreement on? And I did appreciate in his speech to the nation, he complimented President Trump on his
Operation Warp Speed,
vaccination development. Absolutely. He complimented him on that, and they both got the booster shot. So that common ground is important whenever we fight a common enemy. And so I'm grateful for him depoliticizing that, and it does make a difference. And I think the temperature has gone down, and part of it is Omicron and the seriousness of that, but part of it is the fact that I think there's a growing recognition that vaccinations are critical, and our young people are at risk, and this is the best way out of this pandemic.
Governor Asa Hutchinson, thank you so much. Best wishes for a happy new year for you and the good citizens of Arkansas. We are thinking and hoping for the best for you all.
Have a great 2022. We'll see you then.
All right, sounds good.